Hi, I'm Drew, and I'm going to be walking you through the Envision by Gulfstream today. We're going to start right up here, right up front with the electric tongue jack. Has a light, gives you a point of reference if you are backing up to it in the dark. Also will light this coupler, again, in the event that you are doing any hooking up, coupling, uncoupling there in the dark. Other than that, you do have up or down operation on that jack head. Very straightforward, labeled up or down. Under this plug here, we are going to have your manual drive option. In the inside, you're going to find a crank handle. Just use that corresponding crank handle. It would allow you to load or unload the camper, again, in the event that you do have any power loss situations. Directly behind that, we do have two 20-pound propane tanks. They are full for you today, open and close valve on the top. I do find that most people are familiar with these. Same variants you're going to find on any gas grill, easily exchangeable when you are out there on the road. In between the two, we have an automatic switchover regulator. As long as the valve is open, that is corresponding with that tank, it will draw off of that tank until it is empty. If you do have both of these valves open, once it uses that initial tank, it's going to automatically switch over to the other tank. Back behind that, we have a Group 24 interstate D-cycle battery. Just a fair amount of maintenance with this battery. What that is going to entail is 2 or 3 times a year, we're going to pull these vent panels up. There is a clear marked water level in there. We will refill with distilled water as necessary. Other than that, we're going to make sure we utilize the battery disconnect switch, which we'll get to here once we get to the side compartment. But other than that, pretty straightforward. This will all be covered with a battery box when you pick up your unit. Coming around here to this side, we have stabilizer jacks on all 4 corners. These are for stabilization, they're not for leveling. So what that means is if we are trying to level the unit, we are going to level from front to back using that main tongue jack first. Then we'll use the tires and your choice of leveling kits to level from left to right. It is very important that we do level the units. Appliances, generally like the refrigerator and things like that, do need to be leveled to operate properly. So once we are fairly certain of our level, we'll go ahead and we'll put this 3/4 inch drive there on the nut. We'll come down with the stabilizer jack until we reach the pavement, maybe a 1/4 turn more just to shore everything up. Same on the way up. Now these definitely do operate better with a light touch. As they age, they will do so better if you again make the habit of using a light touch with those. Also, down here beside the jack, we have your low point drains. Those are going to be the lowest point in the unit's plumbing. And you are going to use those not only for just good general maintenance, but also for your winterization processes. So anytime the unit is going to be in storage for more than 7 days, we're going to want to go ahead and drain all the water from the unit. And we will use those low point drains to do so. That is the everything in between water source and fixture is going to be drained via those 2 ports there. So the kind of series would go drain the fresh water first if it's been in use. Of course, we'll get to that valve here later on in the presentation. From there, come here and let the water, unscrew the plugs here. So these do just have some plugs on them. Let the water drain from there. And then lastly, we will drain the water heater separately. I know we're going to go over a lot of this stuff, so it may make more sense here at the end of this presentation, but just keep in mind that your low point drains are located right underneath your main storage compartment here. Coming into that storage compartment, a lot going on. There is first a hole here in the floor that is designed for you to go ahead and route your freshwater drinking water hose up through the floor. And then you can plug it on here. Now when we do talk about your freshwater connection, it is very important to keep water pressure in mind. We do include a water pressure regulator for you today. That's going to keep that water pressure below 40 and 50 psi. Now, if that happens to not be enough pressure for you, you can always upgrade that water pressure regulator to either an adjustable variant or a high flow variant. Either way, with either one of those, just remember we do want to keep that water pressure below 75 psi. So operating anywhere between 40 and 75 psi will keep the plumbing of the unit in very good condition. We also have what they would consider a quick disconnect coupler here. Again, on the inside of the unit, you're going to find a blue coiled sprayer hose. You would just you would slide this locking collar back, insert that male end fully. Once you do that, then you do have control here of hot and cold water from your water supply. Battery disconnect switch here. Again, you'll use this anytime you are storing the unit. Reason being is that's going to keep any nominal or phantom draws off of the system. Generally, those are not a huge deal, but when the unit is in storage for months on end, they can wear and tear on the battery. Cable satellite inlets here. Those are just standard RG6 cable fittings. They will pass through to the designated TV areas of the camper. If you do choose to either utilize a park cable service or again an aftermarket satellite package, it is just as easy as connecting here and then at the TV. And then we do have some 110 volt GFI protected outlets here. So just some all-weather outlets there here in the main storage compartment. These lights here in this storage compartment, they of course have a on-off switch as well, but they also do have this motion sensor on them, which is a cool feature that it will just turn on when you open up the compartment. Coming down here on the body, we have a little hard to see as it is hiding here. We have a gray water valve here. So this does correspond with your dump valves further down on the camper. This is just, again, a standard Blade X valve, which will be a 6-inch pull towards you. So from here, it is just a 6-inch pull towards you. This is also, we're going to talk about while we're down here, slide out maintenance. This is what is considered a Schwintek system. What that means is we do have these tracks on the sides, top and bottom. So when it comes to maintenance, 2 or 3 times a year, every 90 days, you are going to want to use a dry silicone lubricant here on these tracks. We'll spray that down, run the slide in and out a few times to distribute that lubricant, and you'll be good to go for the next 90 days. Also on that same maintenance schedule, we're going to want to use a seal conditioner here on these rubber seals. Again, both of these products come in aerosol cans. Do your best to keep it on the seal itself. Follow instructions on the can, spray it down, again, once every 90 days. You do have seals on the inside as well as the outside, since the slide does seal in both directions. Of course, again, just keep in mind that we do want to keep that rubber nice and supple. So once every 90 days there. Also, while we are talking about maintenance, every 90 days on that same maintenance schedule, you are going to want to maintain the sealants all the way around the unit. So anywhere on the body where 2 pieces come together, there is going to be some sort of sealant. Generally, what you find here on the body is going to be 100% silicone product. And everything you find on the roof is going to be a standard RV grade self-leveling lap sealant. You can probably source the silicone products from a local hardware store, but you will need to get that RV grade lap sealant from an RV dealer or parts department. Continuing on, Lugnuts tire pressure. Lugnuts have been torqued to 100 foot-pounds here in the shop. Manufacturer recommends a retorque procedure. That's going to be the first 15, 25, 50, and 100 miles of initial travel. They want you to go ahead and retorque those down to 100 foot-pounds. Manufacturer further recommends that every time you move the camper from there on after, or the beginning of each trip, you go ahead and retorque those down to 100 foot-pounds. Also, tire pressure is very important. The max tire pressure of this unit is going to be 75 PSI. That is indicated on the sidewall of the tire, as well as on this data tag here. 75 PSI is kind of the magic number. That's going to give you the highest flexibility in terms of weight rating. So whether you're completely full or completely empty, that 75 PSI is going to be a good number. So we do want to maintain that tire pressure. Down here we have some secondary dump valves. We have, of course, you can see the plumbing here. So this unit just has two gray water tanks. One for the kitchen, one for the bathroom, essentially, and we can kind of see that plumbing making its way here. If we look underneath this J-wrap here, we're going to see your black water handle to the right of that dump, and your gray water to the left. Black water is anything that's going to come from the toilet waste, body waste. Gray water is going to be anything that comes from the sink or the shower. This is your standard bayonet style fitting. Sewage hose is going to connect the very same way that cap comes off, which would be, of course, you have your keyhole here. You have 4 prongs around the outside. Just put this into the halfway position, give it a quarter turn. That's going to lock everything on. Even when you are hooked up to full-time septic, utilizing the sewage hose here, you want to keep this black water in the closed position and use the monitor panel on the inside and only dump as necessary. So it is very important with that solid body waste that we do keep that in as wet or flowing condition as we can. And that's just about it with that. We are on 50 amp service here. What that means for you is that you will have to take a special amount of care when booking your camper sites. Not all RV parks have 50 amp service available. So just keep that in mind in your travels. When you're looking at this cord, it will only plug in one way. So it is only accommodated one way. Once we do plug it in, we give it an 1/8 inch turn to the right, that locks it in. Then we do have a secondary collar here to screw down, lock it in further. Below that, we have a light, lights your way, gives you, switches right there on the bottom. Nothing too crazy there. This is what's called your black tank flush. That corresponds with a jet inside the black water tank, specifically designed to help blast off compounded toilet waste, body waste, anything like that. The major limitation of this setup is going to be the fact that there is no check valve or anything in the tank to help keep that waste down in the tank if you were to overflow from this location. So path of least resistance, believe it or not, is the rooftop septic vents. And just keep that in mind. So I recommend my customers at the most 5 minutes with water rushing in here before relieving that pressure of the tank with that black water valve. So 5 minutes with water rushing in and then opening that black water valve and allowing that to dump out. What we're doing is we're just cleaning any deposits or compounding of toilet paper and body waste from the tank. If you have a friend with you, someone else who can watch the monitor panel, you'll get the better rinsing action if you watch again on that monitor panel on the inside as it fills up and then dump. And do that generally until, if you have a sewage hose with a clear elbow, of course do that until that water runs clear. Coming around here to the back side, of course, we have your rooftop access here. Full walk-on roof makes it very easy to do that maintenance schedule that we spoke of. At the very least, you should be up there once every 90 days checking those rooftop seals. Bumper mounted spare tire here. Again, going to be that same tire pressure, 75 PSI. Make sure that when we are maintaining tire pressure on the rest of the unit, we are doing the same here for the spare. You have a 6-gallon capacity, Suburban water heater here. What that means for you is this is a dual source water heater, so it runs on electricity as well as propane gas. Now, the way that some of these manufacturers separate the switches is they have the 110 volt electricity switch out here. Not sure if we can get that on camera, but that is just essentially underneath this regulator and is labeled on and off. The switch that you'll see there on the inside is going to be the propane switch. You can theoretically run both at the same time. That's going to give you the highest recharge rate, 17 gallons per hour with both sources, 15 gallons per hour with straight electricity, and then 11 gallons per hour, 15 gallons per hour with straight propane, 11 gallons per hour with straight electricity on this toggle switch. I find that the biggest problem with having these switches in different places is that a lot of times people will forget, especially with this electric heating element, to turn it off when they're done. Maintenance schedule for the unit calls for you to drain the unit anytime it's going to be used for more than 7 days. Anytime it's going to be in storage for more than 7 days, they want you to go ahead and drain this separate of the system. So we talked about that a little bit with the low point drains. This would be the last stop of that draining process. So again, that's going to go freshwater drain if it's been in use. We'll get to that here kind of, even though it's the first thing you're going to drain, it's kind of the last part of this presentation. So freshwater tank first, low point drains, which again are located underneath that storage compartment on the front, and then lastly we're going to do the water heater. Now the theory being is that if you have forgotten to turn this switch on or forgotten to turn it off, once you drain the water heater, as long as there is power to the unit, you are going to be heating an empty tank, which is of course not good at all for the appliance. So again, with that being said, anytime the unit is going to be in storage for more than 7 days, we do need to drain the water out. That process is very important from a safety standpoint to follow the correct series. What you are going to do is, of course, give it ample time to cool down, a lot longer than you may expect, generally about 8 hours. From there, we do need to depressurize the unit. That is very important. If we fail to depressurize it when we take this drain plug out, if it is still under pressure, it's going to shoot that drain plug and anode rod 20 feet that way. So very important that we depressurize it first. Depressurizing it is as easy as turning the hot side of the spigot on the inside of the camper. Of course, cutting flow to the unit first. Once you do turn that hot side of the spigot off, that pressure and excess water is going to bleed off from the appliance. From there, we're going to take an 1.1" socket and extension, and we'll go ahead and place it on this drain plug here. Now, once we back up that drain plug, not only is the remainder water in the unit going to come out, but also you're going to see your anode rod. Now, your anode rod is a 3/4 inch by 12 inch piece of magnesium, acts like a magnet for hard water deposits, calcification, things like that. So they deposit onto that, eat away at that anode rod as opposed to the inside of the unit. Now, it is a consumable part. Expect to get a year or two in between anode rods. Again, starts out about 3/4 inch in diameter. By the time it's time to replace, it's about the size of a pencil and looks very decrepit. Again, you should be well aware of the condition of your anode rod because you are going to be draining this appliance anytime the unit is going to be stored for more than 7 days. On the flip side of that conversation, of course, your water heater will generally be empty when starting out your trip, so it is important that we feed 6 gallons of water to the unit before lighting it. To do so, again, it is very simple. You just introduce a water supply to the unit, whether that be a city water connection or water from the tank. Once we have that in place, we can just turn the hot side of the spigot on. It's going to feed 6 gallons of water to the water heater before you see it at the fixture. So keep that in mind. That flow is initially going to be very bubbly, very interrupted. What again is it's doing is it's filling the water heater. So by the time that flow normalizes at the fixture, that is a really good indicator that you have filled up the water heater, and you can go ahead and light it either with the 110 volt element here or the propane element on the inside. Also, what we have here is a very large intrusion point for mud daubers, flying insects, things like that. We will want to make sure we screen those off. Keep any mud daubers, flying insects from nesting in there. So they're attracted to the smell of propane. They like to make their nest directly as close as they can to the burn tube here. That not only goes with the water heater here, but all of the propane appliances. I'm probably going to say that at least 3 more times as we get to those appliances. Secondary spray port here, again, we're going to use that same coiled sprayer hose with that quick connect fitting here. It's just, again, if you need water on this side of the camper, you can use it here. If we need it on the other side, we can use it there. So it is nice for them to give you an option. Down low, we're also going to see another quick connect fitting here. This one, however, taps into the propane supply up front. This is designed for any high flow propane appliance, any gas grills, propane fire pits, propane heaters. They can all be plugged into this. Now again, you have a sliding collar here. So you slide that collar back, insert the male end, and then we do have a valve here to turn on. And just like any valve, if it's with the flow of propane, it's on. Against the flow, it's going to be off. Step here is going to fold right into the door. So he comes up like so. And then you lock that in there. So this handle would be down like that. Keeps it from knocking you out when you open the door. So once you do open it here, of course you can see that mechanism here is sliding those locking bars out of the way. It will come down. You can choose the pitch, so if you are on uneven ground, you can adjust these legs as necessary to take up the slack. Very cool step. Not many units that we carry have this step, and it is a nice solid 3-step. Before we get to these kind of appliances here, we want to drop down here and look at that freshwater valve, freshwater drain valve there. So again, kind of bringing that all home now that we've seen all of those locations. When draining the water from the unit, freshwater valve here, freshwater tank drain, just grab that handle, pull it towards just 6 inches. That's going to evacuate all of your fresh water. Then we're going to hop over to the very front of the unit and empty the low point drains. From there, we're going to finish up with the water heater, which we just went over there. We then have a outside TV area here. You can go ahead and use an included TV mount to attach to the TV, and it just slides on from the top. We have a 110 volt outlets there to power it, a pass-through cable connection. So what we saw in the initial storage compartment was the inlet. This would be the outlet. This would allow you to tap into that digital over-the-air television and of course watch TV outside. Potable water here. So this is how we're going to fill the onboard water tank. We'll stick a drinking water hose directly in there, fill it up till it overflows. Once it does overflow, we will cap it off, and we will use that water pump switch on the inside to pressurize that system and draw it up to the fixtures. Furnace here. That is your 12 volt powered propane burning furnace. What we're seeing here is the exhaust for the appliance. so let it exhaust. You're not going to want to put a lawn chair or put anything up in front of this exhaust port here. It does blow very hot air when it is on. It will melt whatever you put in front of it. As well as we need to protect this from Madaver's flying insects from nesting inside the appliance. Again, we have the other side of that pass-through storage compartment here. Only things we have here is going to be that same light that we saw on the other side. And then we have the lights for the front here. So there is a strip of LED lights across the center of the camper. That is just the switch for that. And then this unit's equipped with the ability to use a Furon branded solar panel with it. That is going to be a portable solar panel. Furon uses kind of a proprietary connection there. So unfortunately it would need to be a Furon panel to take advantage of that portable solar. Well, that just about covers it here on the outside of the camper. We're going to hop on the inside, take a look at that stuff, and we'll see you here in a bit. Starting here on the inside of the camper, we have your main function panel here. Going through the switches, we have a main ceiling light switch that's going to take care of all of the overhead lights here in the main living area. Exterior light is just going to be a porch light there on the passenger side of the camper. Awning light is a LED strip that runs across the base of the awning to light the patio area. Water pump switch, anytime you are boondocking or off-grid, you will need to pressurize that water system. If that light is on, then the switch is on. Gas water heater. So in this particular model, there is only a single option for the water heater. That is going to be propane gas, and that is the switch there. You may also see this fault light come on with that switch. What that means is that that light is your indicator on whether or not the water heater has lit. So if you see this light, that means that it has not lit. And then as we were speaking, that light went off. That means that it did light. So that water heater is going to cycle 3 times. If it does not light by the end of that 3rd time, that light will stay illuminated. What that means is either you're out of gas up front, your propane bottles are off, or oftentimes a larger trailer like this, the gas just hasn't made its way to the appliance. Either way, in the event that light stays illuminated, of course check and make sure that you're not encountering any of those issues, and just flip the switch off, turn it back on, and then cycle another 3 times. Generally, as long as the issue has been corrected, it will light of the first try of the 2nd cycle. Down below here, we have your slide in and out switch here. Just hold the button until the slide comes all the way in. Same on the way out. And then same with the awning. Extend and retract is not what we would consider a one-touch awning. So if you do take your finger off the button, it will stop. It's beneficial if you want to, say, put the awning halfway out or follow the sun in the sky, something like that. You can do that with this particular awning. Up top here, we have your convenience center, your courtesy panel, goes by many different names. What this is going to do is going to give you a real-time readout of where your tanks and battery sit. On the display, you have 2 kind of measurement indicators. One for the battery, one for the tanks. The one for the battery, LFGC, low, fair, good, charged. And then empty, 1/3, 2/3 full. And then again, if you push the corresponding tank button, the lights will indicate how full or empty it is. Coming here into the bathroom, we of course have your main light switch, these large sliding barn style doors, rooftop exhaust vent. Very important that we do close these before going down the road, but you do have a button there to turn that on. And again, we're going to make sure that we do close that. Main light switch right here on the inside. Toilet is going to be a pedestal style toilet. It'll be a light press to fill up the bowl, full press to flush. Always going to want to go ahead and keep some water in the toilet. That's going to help keep the bad smells down in the tank. We have almost kind of this projector style shower curtain here. And of course, the instructions on how to use are right there on the handle. Large amount of storage here in the bathroom. Access to your water heater is going to be done in this area. You can pretty much reach everything you need to do by removing this drawer. If you are trying to access that bypass for winterization processes, this is going to be where you can do it. You can either remove the drawer or you can remove this main panel here. That is going to give you quite a bit of access. Coming out here into the living room, starting with the couch, you have a storage compartment under here. This is going to house your table. So you have a card style table you could set up here in the living area if you were inclined to do so. And then here is going to be a pull-out couch. So you remove the cushions for the moment being. And from there we lift up. We can go ahead and put the legs out now. They give you a place to hold on to as you fold that out. And then this piece folds down, fills out the rest of the bed there. And then on the way in, very straightforward. Something like that. TV, a 110 volt appliance here. Of course, does have its own separate remote. That's going to be in your messenger bag. Rooftop also has a omnidirectional digital over-the-air television antenna. To power that on, it's going to be this button here. Once that button's on, if you go ahead and do a channel search, it's going to automatically search out your best signal for you. Get you any of that over-the-air digital service that may be available. Down below that, we have this nice sound bar here, and what you have here is multiple zones, inside and outside access here. And then we have different modes there where we can have the TV playing through the sound bar, DVD as well, Bluetooth, radio, and then auxiliary in. So you have HDMI in, you have USB in, 3.5 millimeter jack there, multiple controls pretty much over everything, all those modes. Down here we have your electric fireplace. You can either have it turn on and just give you a picture, or this does actually produce some heat. So you have your choices up front here. First button's going to be that heat option. Second one is going to be the brightness level of the display. This would be changing the color of the lights. And this is, again, that on and off button. Down below here, we do have your fuse panel breaker box. So everything you see there on the left of the panel is going to be your 110 volt resettable light switch style breakers. Everything on the right is going to be an automotive blade style fuse. So not a bad idea to go to the auto parts store, pick up a variety pack of fuses, keep them with the unit. In the event that one burns out, you have a spare. Kitchen area of the camper. We have your cooktop here. Once you fold back that covering, you do have the ability to light these burners using this igniter here. So we'll turn that to high, and then if we were to give this a twist, it would actually light up. You can actually light the oven with the sparker on this particular model. So you would be lighting the pilot light of the oven in the same fashion, turning this to flame, of course clicking that igniter. Once that pilot is lit, then you go further, select your temperature here. Also a nice feature is that the oven does have a light in them inside of it, which is generally not the standard setup with an RV cooktop and oven. We have kind of the usual suspects here, light, hood, again pretty straightforward stuff, standard run-of-the-mill microwave, nothing really different from what you have at home. Nice large single base sink here, multiple sprayer levels there, and of course you can have that pull down option as well. All your lights, you can really control which ones come on with that main switch. Of course, these under cabinet lights, the ones in the bathroom, the ones in the bedroom are not on that main switch. So you will be controlling those separately. There is a little push button dead center of the actual light itself. Refrigerator here. This is a compressor 12 volt RV style refrigerator. Differs from what you would generally find in a camper. Your controls of the unit are going to be right here on the display for the refrigerator. So really you just have 5 temperatures there and one set button to cycle through. Now on the freezer, again you have a cold and a colder option here, and that's really the only controls you have of it. Now this light switch here, this switch here, turns that fridge on and off. So up is going to be on there, down would be off. So oh, looks like we did just get some reception there on the TV. Down low here on the floor we have your carbon monoxide LP leak detector. That is a 12 volt appliance. It will indicate to you if it is sensing any of those gases via a series of lights. Just like with all your safety equipment here in the unit, we do want you to go ahead and test that every time you take the unit out. Also on this wall we have a bedroom light switch. Again, this is going to control the 2 lights on the ceiling of the bedroom. And then when we get in there, you'll see that there are 2 additional lights on the cabinetry. Those will be controlled on the light fixture itself. Thermostat here. This is a touchscreen thermostat. First we choose the mode button. Before we make any other selections in terms of furnace or air conditioner, we do need to choose a fan speed. Our choices are low, auto, and high. If we go to either low or high, that fan speed of the air conditioner is going to run indefinitely even once we hit a temperature. Also, if we're trying to go to the furnace and we chose low or high, then again, that air conditioner fan is going to come on even if we are trying to get to the furnace. So to keep it right with what we're doing, we'll put it on auto. We hit it one more time. That does take us into that air conditioner mode. From there, we push the up or down arrows to choose our desired temperature, and it is pretty straightforward there, very comparable to a residential thermostat from there on after. If we want to turn the gas on, we hit it one more time. That again takes us into a similar mode, and since we are in auto, once the thermostat kind of realizes what we're doing, it's going to kick the air conditioner off. Then kick that blower motor on soon thereafter. 16 seconds after that, it's actually going to ignite that furnace. By that 30-second mark, it's generally producing noticeable heat from there. This does have a ducted furnace on it, blowers strategically located around the camper. And then we'll come from here to off. Again, that furnace will run for a few minutes after we turn the thermostat off as it blows off that excess heat. And then we'll finally shut down. Moving on here into the bedroom. Not too terribly much to speak of in here. Of course, you have the cabinetry above the bed. These lights are not switched, so you will be turning those off. These ones here on the ceiling, of course, still have that same push button light, but they are controlled with that switch there. Storage underneath the bed. So a good amount of storage there on the bed, under the bedside. And a cool feature they give you over on this side is they do have a access door that you can lift up and access that outside storage compartment, which I thought was a good idea. You should have 110 volt outlets on both sides of the bed, as well as USBs on the front of this cabinet here. Of course, all of the window shades in the unit are going to be these pull down tension shades. So you just pull that down. And then the windows are all going to again be basically the same, where you have a locking tab here. Once you pull that locking tab out, you can of course slide the window. Just make sure when you do close it, you make sure that that locking tab does seat all the way into that sill. You also have a secondary TV location here, where you can of course use the part cable service, the aftermarket satellite package. Unfortunately, you do have the only option for a 110 volt TV, so you do not have a 12 volt option there. That just about covers it here on the inside. If you do have any other questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We can generally run you through this stuff over the phone. We are pretty well aware. Thank you. Have a great day.